because I have a toddler, but I would love to see more programming around youth parents.
Yeah.
There are plenty of programs for mothers. There are plenty of programs for parents, but they are not LGBTQ affirming, and they are not understanding for youthful parents, and oftentimes not what young parents need. We don't necessarily need help getting into a daycare at the moment. We just needed help getting high chairs and cribs and stuff like that, things that we didn't know how to shop for. My wife got pregnant early. Tennessee's not great about that. And so, we have a 15-month-old we bring to YAB meetings with us and struggle through that through the whole time because we just don't have any resources for them. And we've tried going to parenting groups, but they don't want a T for T couple raising a kid in their midst, and it's just one of those things that feels very isolating. Even within the LGBT community, there's not a whole lot of, parents our age, particularly parents our age, actually.
I just want to reiterate with YAB of being a kid, especially a kid who's poor and doesn't have a lot of resources. The idea of being in a group where we were able to get the mayor's ear, she actually had to sit down and listen to us and be polite for a little bit, even though we weren't sure if that was how it's going to work out. That idea of being able to talk to someone in a position of power and being able to hey, things are messed up, and I'm not sure if you noticed, but people are dying.
To throw a person of authority for a loop, to watch them stutter because of something you said, and then to watch her almost tear up over something you said. I didn't even speak for that whole meeting. I was just so proud because there was an individual there who I had lived with in my shelter. He was loud, he was coarse, he was a very ignorant person out of a place of fear. He actually left because I asked, me and another member were like, dude, you can't be racist, that's kind of mean. And he came back and his hair's trimmed up and he stood up and I was like, oh boy, here we go. And he goes, Miss Kincannon, I have had a lot of problems here in Knoxville being a homeless man. People just immediately assume I'm on drugs because of my acne, and I've been trying my best to get my act straight, but everywhere I went, people saw me as a problem child, so I started being a problem child, and I was like, well, I can't talk anymore, because this is good stuff.
Yeah.
I was just tearing up the whole time, because these youth that I knew, these youth that, I even discredited, throughout my own personal bias, oh, I'm homeless, I'm not homeless like you, were standing up, and they were speaking like Socrates to a mayor.
Yep.
And it was the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen.
Yeah. So with and being not only just for myself, but being able to see people and have their own opinions and stuff and being able to give it is, I genuinely think it's made me the most happiest I've ever been. Even from getting my new apartment and no longer being homeless, I think this actually made me happier.
There was understanding when we applied to the YHDP last year that a lot of us would never get to reap the benefits of this shelter that we're fighting to build so badly. That a lot of us will be housed or have gone somewhere else by the time it's up and running, and it might never get to be something that we use. And I expected people to be disappointed about that. I expected people to be angry about that, but then instead they went, well, yeah, that means the next YAB doesn't have to do that.
Yeah. We are planting trees that younger kids can stand in the shade of. And that's exactly what we want to do. Because, we're going to be the older kids at that point. We're going to be the adults in the situation later on. And those kids will not have to deal with it. They shouldn't have to. We shouldn't have had to. And so now they won't.
There is so much selflessness in a group of people that understands what it is to really have nothing.
I just want to add in, Jasper mentioned the YHDP. We're applying for that. It's a HUD grant, which is a multi-million-dollar grant. It's sustainable funds, and we have been fighting for this grant for several years to try to build a youth-specific housing and or shelter in our community. Last year we were 2 points away So we were really, 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 really close. But you know, like Jasper and Skylar both said, like these youth, like they recognize the need for it. So that's why they keep showing up and doing these meetings and giving the information, as much as it just, like, you know, I don't want to speak for them, but you know, like, I know it hurts them to have to go through this over and over and over again, but you know, they do it because they hope to see what's on the other side. They know there's something on the other side. So other things that I just want to throw out there, in November we're trying to organize a Homeless Youth Awareness Month, a more coordinated one. I won't be here to help lead that, but I know Jasper and the YAB are going to do a fantastic job with it. We're hoping to do a youth resource fair at that time. We did one in February, which was very successful. I think we had 25 agencies, youth serving agencies, that came in and talked about like what they're doing for youth, and I thought that was really important because, again, there's all these people that want to help, but like, how do we get them connected? So that's one thing that we're doing. We're also doing a photo voice project where we're asking the YAB to, you know, take photos and write a synopsis, and it'll be throughout the community where people can interact with that and just get an inside peek of what it's like through photos. And we're also trying to do a Walk in Our Shoes event in partnership with Knox Pride. And so the idea is, we hope we do like a mock check-in to a shelter where you don't have your ID, you know, well, you have a mental health disorder, but it looks like you're on using substances, so you can't come in, you know, and then we're asking people to walk through a food pantry, what that's like, sleeping outside for the night. You know, we're kind of hoping that we can get like a security guard out there to kind of harass people when they're sleeping in their cars, because that is something that homeless people deal with, you know. Unfortunately, we don't want to bulldoze anybody's tent, but that is also something that happens, that just people that don't experience homelessness or don't work in this field will never know and never understand, and maybe never even believe, but it's a real thing. You know, hurry up and grab all your things because here comes the bulldozer, you know, and maybe
That's
just
if they give you a warning.
Yeah.
My wife has been through several situations where she was camping with her mom and their mom and their sister, and the bulldozers will just show up and they hear loud crashing noises and they go outside and they're like, oh my god, there's a bunch of stuff knocking over our tents and it was time to go.
Yeah.
They don't care.
So there's so, homelessness is so complex. I think people just, you know, it's 2023 and people still try to act like it's just people that don't want to work, and it's so much more than that.
Most, I think the majority of homeless people, especially in youth, not only are we working, we're working full time.
Yep.
It's
Yeah.
just
Jobs.
there's no resources anymore. There's like, or if there is the resources, they're not made for children.
Mm-hmm.
If you, even under the age of 25, they don't think about it. They think about parents of like in their 40s with their own children, and so as a kid, you don't know what to do.
But we are always looking for people, organizations, if they want to donate food cards. You know, even though we have the YAB, that's bi-monthly. And so, again, a lot of them youth, they come to eat. So it's nice when they come in to see us and they're working on a housing plan. They're trying to get back into school. They're looking for a job. It's always nice in that interim when we can give them a gift card. Like, here's $20, go get some McDonald's, you know, and I'll catch up with you the next time. So we're always looking for people to do fundraisers. I actually have like this whole list of fundraisers that we put together for a presentation. But food cards is always something. In the cold winter months, we always need blankets. We always need gloves, you know, hot hands, hats, all those things. If people want to donate into our Give Butter, if you go to knoxcac.org, it has the Give Butter for the YAB. People can donate into that, and we can use that money to buy meals for the YAB. I feel like you've got some more.
Clothing drives, drives specifically for menstrual products or safe-sex products. It's something that a lot of people don't think people would need, but like in a state where contraceptive health isn't readily available and sex health isn't readily available, things like condoms, access to like affordable care for like your
Bonds, pads.
but for like birth control and stuff, IUDs.
Okay.
My spouse had an IUD break in their arm from a blood pressure cuff and no way to remove it. Yeah, and that's just something that a lot of young people, you know, who, you know, are at risk of pregnancy are experiencing. There's nobody to help them walk through this. You don't learn it in public school here in Tennessee to begin with. So, I mean, you're in this situation where it's heavily likely that you will be assaulted or sex trafficked or end up with a partner who's not upfront about their past STI history, and it's dangerous. It's really dangerous. And it's something that I watch, you know, little old ladies that have been doing this for 30 years squirm in their seats when I bring up, but I'm like, I don't want to end up with an HIV cluster here. I'm going to tell you where to get condoms. I'm going to tell you where to get needles. Like, it's more important to me that you have these resources than you end up sick with something you don't even know you're sick with, or hurt from something you don't even know, you know, what caused it, and end up, you know, hurting other people in your community that way.
Feminine man. As you see the way that I am dressed, I like dressing like this. I like the long hair. I'm never going to cut it, partly for religious reasons, but I like wearing shiny jewelry and stuff, but I am a dude. There are so many people who are above like the age of like not even in their 30s who are not going to understand that.
Being homeless and this work actually helped me realize that I wasn't non-binary, because I think non-binary for me is just easier for me to process. I grew up very like rigidly religious, but coming into my community and being, you know, kind of pushed by others into a position of like having to be a father, having to be a defender and a provider, the things that I directly associated with masculinity from my upbringing, I was like, so I get to be a gentle man in my community, and that was not something I was raised with. But and it makes me sad too, because I think a lot of cis people don't get to experience joy from their gender, because they assume it's something they're born with, and that it's nothing that they get to explore, nothing that they get to like celebrate or rejoice in. So,
or have fun with.
Yeah, in a lot of ways, being homeless helped me tackle my queer identity. I just jumped from label to label because I thought that's what you were supposed to do. It's gotten to the point where I don't even care. While I was Catholic, I was a very bitter and angry person, partly because I was wrestling with myself, and you can't love others if you can't love yourself, and partly because I was watching the world from behind a pane of glass. You know, that I could not dress like other people, I could not speak like other people, I could not watch or listen to what other people were watching and listening to. And it was a very isolating experience, especially when you're struggling with same-sex attraction and gender ideology, and everyone can tell you're struggling with those things and isolating you for it, while simultaneously saying, no, we love you for it, we're glad you're struggling with it, thank you for coming to us with it. And you feel like you're crazy. So, you know, I doubled down. I was this bitter, hateful, selfish person to everybody. I was very equality-based in my hatred. But I think being homeless, I got a hard kick in the mouth from reality. It wasn't better than other people because I was smart. It wasn't better than other people because I wasn't on drugs. It wasn't better than other people because I was raised, you know, my dad came into money when I was a teenager. And it got to the point where I was like, nobody else has the job of making me happy, and nobody else is gonna do it. But you know what? I have money for coffee creamer, and I know this guy in my shelter really likes this type of coffee creamer. I'm gonna go put coffee creamer in the fridge. And after that, it got to the point where I would just be cooking in the kitchen. Somebody would come in, you'd share a bowl, and then the entire shelter is having communal dinners that the staff didn't organize off of food we bought with money we shared together. And I think that really centered my identity. I thought I was going to be this callous person. I idolized the Mentalist and Bones, and you know, these far off avant characters, or savant characters. And I don't know, I was forced to get out of my own head. And because of that, I had to make hard decisions. There are times where I would still very much like not to be openly trans, and very much like to say, oh no, I'm a woman, and oh, you know, I'm a lesbian, and oh, you know, no, I think God can forgive everybody, even though I don't believe in God. And you know, it's just like that swallowed thing that always comes back in moments. But you know, being queer and like adopting a baby and then fostering this person I'm supposed to turn into a young man. It helped me shape that.
Homelessness also kind of helped me a lot. I started being homeless when I was younger. It was the 2008 crash was the very first time my family had been homeless. We were decently well off before then. My mom had a little bit of money, and so did my dad from our parents, like their parents and stuff, and they had been able to scrape together just enough to get a house in Illinois, in a very racist town. And I shudder to think what kind of person I would have been if I had stayed there, if we had never been homeless, if I had stayed in that town. Because the family that did stay, while they're not objectively horrible people, they are colorblind racists. And so I was shielded from that because I was not shielded from other types of trauma. I was thrown into the mess where, so certain things that other people told me didn't make sense anymore because I could see it from a different perspective. If you're on the street, it doesn't matter what color you are, it doesn't matter what your gender identity is. It matters if whether or not you're going to eat tonight. And so it doesn't matter how long I've known you, it doesn't matter what kind of person you are, it doesn't matter if I even like you. I am not going to let you starve. And that was that's how we grew up, because we had neighbors and stuff. We hated most of our neighbors. I genuinely, the amount of times that Uncle Pooh down the street would be playing loud music my mama hated, and mama would play loud Christian rock back at him. Hated our neighbors. But Uncle Pooh would drive us to school when the car broke down, despite the fact he hated us and we hated him. Whenever his lawnmower would break, Dad would fix it. Because that's what being poor is like. You build a community, because if you don't survive. And that's what YAB and everything is. It's like a community where we can build it together. And it's a safety net, because we don't have one.
When hobbies, decoration, clothing, and, food and housing is stripped away, all you got left is humanity.
Yeah.
And it's actually way more beautiful than the world would like to give it credit.
I think it's interesting too, because in YAB, there are some youth that come in and they're not comfortable that there's LGBTQ people, because that they exist or whatever, and they're just all but and I'm well, they are a subpopulation and they are welcome here, and you can board with that, or maybe this isn't the right space for you, and that's not to say that they can't get help from WINS, but coming into a space like this where we are diverse and we have to accept that diversity, not everybody has to agree with it, but it's just about respect, they all come from the same things, the same backgrounds. There's not, it's very interesting to me to hear a lot of their stories, and they're just all oh yeah.
Interesting.
Even the ways that make us uncomfortable, I have a surprising amount of pastors' phone numbers. I probably wouldn't personally network with churches if there wasn't a need for faith-based spaces for people who want that here at YAB. And, as a representative, if I was being represented by somebody at YAB, regardless of their personal beliefs, I would expect them to go forward and find me a Pride Center. So if you come to me and you say, I don't like it here, but is there something like this, I'm going to tell you where a church is. I'm going to tell you where a church that you're going to love is, because that's my job.
With it being mostly LGBT, the alphabet mafia youth. So focus does not mean exclusion. We focus on them and on ourselves because, especially with the current climate, being trans or gay or any type of gender questioning at all can be a death sentence. Yeah. So they are in more need than some other youth, because there is no other option. Other than YAB and Youth WINS, I can't think of a single other option, other than now Knox Pride, where you can get any resources and know that you do not have to hide or cut your hair or cover yourself up or pretend that you are just a normal white Christian person in order to get the things you need to survive. So we show them overwhelming welcomeness because they're not going to get it anywhere else.